We're up on a Dewey in northern Wales, 502 metres on the map, Craig Bron Bannog. And I'm here today with the instigator behind the setting up of the database of British hills that's up on the internet, Graham Jackson.
Hi, Myrddyn.
Hiya, Graham. How's things? All right?
Yeah.
Well, I thought it'd be quite good because the database as it stands now is probably the best concerning British hills that's up on the internet, and I thought it would be an opportunity to meet up with you to just discuss what, or the format that it currently is on the internet, but also how it sort of started. Now, if you could just briefly describe how it is on the internet at the moment.
Yes, it's available as a downloadable file on the internet. It can be accessed from 2 websites, and we've got a lot of hills in it.
And of course, when you say a lot of hills, it's literally thousands, isn't it?
I think the present count is 5,612. Yeah,
that's quite a few hills. Well, of course, it's got quite an interesting beginning because, as most things on the internet, when you access them, it's obviously instant, but you can download stuff and you think, wow, this is really, really good. However, very few people realise how those things evolved and how they started off. And I believe with the database of British hills, it started off with your wife Janet, didn't it?
Yes, it had quite modest beginnings. Janet was finally persuaded that she'd do the Welsh Nuttals with me, so we were off on that. And then one day she asked how many she'd done, and I decided to drop the data into Microsoft Access and then printed it off for her. And that was how it first started, and then I thought when I'd done that, well, might as well add the English Nuttals, and why not add the Munros and the Munro Tops and the Corbetts? And I thought, because if I do that, then you've got a true database, and if you climb a hill, you just enter the date you've done it once, and it appears on whatever list it appears on. So that was how it started.
So, of course, setting up a spreadsheet for your wife Janet, but as you said, with the more hill list that you started putting on it, presumably that was for yourself as well.
Oh yeah, it was. Yeah, by that stage I thought I'd got, you know what it's like, you pick off Munro's tables when you've gone and done half a dozen Munros one weekend and you write them in, and then you think, oh bugger, that one's on them, that one's also on the Marylin's list. I'd better go and get the Marylin's book out. So you get Alan Dawson's book out and you tick it off in that as well. And so it goes on. And having it all in one database is just so much easier because you just write the date in against the hill once, and then whatever list it appears on is in the database.
So how long ago was that, Graham, that you initiated the spreadsheet to begin with?
Yeah, that's going back to about 2001, I think.
And of course, when you say that it was instigated for keeping a track of Janet and her progress through the Nuttals, it was last year that the two of you completed the English and Welsh Nuttals, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was, that's right, yes. We had a good day, as you know well, Myrddyn, on Crossfell, but weather-wise it was not what we expected, was it? But it was a cracking day.
It was pretty wild in places, wasn't it, I think? But of course, the spreadsheet as it is now, it's ever progressing. And what version is it on now?
We're currently on version 11.3, and we're starting to work on version 11.4, which will probably come out about the end of February. The point versions are usually fairly minor corrections, and we give a new number, like version 12, for example, which would be the next full number, when we make a major revision to the database.
So the current version 11.3, how long has that been on the web?
11.3 went on, I think, about the end of end of November.
Now, here's a good question. What kind of hill lists are on the database?
Yeah, you're trying to test my memory now, aren't you, bugger? Well, we've got Munros, Munro Tops, Corbetts, Corbett Tops, Graham Tops, Humps, Marylin's, Nuttals, English and Welsh, Hewitts, Wainwrights, Wainwright Outline Fells, Deweys, Burkitts, Bridges, County Tops, Historic, County Tops, Unitary Authority, County Tops, Current, London Borough Tops.
Buxton and Lewis?
Buxton and Lewis.
Yeah, and Alan Dawson's Murdos?
Oh, the Myrdos and the sub-Myrdos,
My God.
sub-Hewitts, of course, and many of the sub-lists as well.
And
Donald Tops, Donalds, deleted Donalds.
It goes on and on and on, doesn't it? Well, of course, one of the joys of the database is that when you access it, I believe each hill that you access, you can pull up its individual categories, because, of course, one hill doesn't necessarily just appear in one list, does it?
Yeah, that's absolutely right. It depends. With it being, it comes in several different formats. You can download it as a Microsoft Access file, and that exists both as a relational database version and a non-relational database version. You can also download it as an Excel file, and you can also download a CSV file. The Access database has got the best functionality, obviously, because that's what it's designed for. In one of those formats, the form view, you can pull up all the details about any particular hill. So as you say, you'll see whether it's a Marilyn and also a Munro and a hump or whatever. You will see what its grid reference is, you'll see what the coal grid reference is, what the drop is, what area it's in, what area number in Alan Dawson's tables. All that information about the hill is contained on that one form view.
So the website address to access the actual database is?
There are two addresses that you can use. To download it, you go to Chris Crocker's website, which is www.biber.fsnet.co.uk. That's BIBER. If you want to use it as a web-based version, then you would access Simon Edwards' website, which is hillbagging.co.uk.
Now, of course, you mentioned two people there, Chris Crocker, Simon Edwards. Now, presumably over the history of the database of British Hills, you've had various contributors, because the detail involved in the database is quite phenomenal. It's you know, as the versions come out, there's various updatings, and I believe many people have contributed towards sending details in concerning British Hills.
Yeah, I mean, perhaps I should go back a couple of steps. I mean, the way it got onto the internet in the first place was a discussion that I had with Chris Crocker, who had recently set up his statistical website, and he heard about what I'd done, and he said, "Oh, I'd quite like to put that on the website." So I said, "Yeah, okay," and I gave him a copy of it, and that really transformed it, because I was using it really just as a personal database to tick things off with, whereas Chris actually looked at the data and he tried to rationalise it. You know, so for example, if you look in the Marilyn's book, you'll get a grid reference for a Marilyn that happens to be a Munro as well. And then if you go into Munro's tables, the grid reference will be slightly different. And Chris went to an enormous amount of effort trying to make sure that all the six-figure grid references were correct. He went to an enormous amount of effort making sure that the heights and everything were consistent and correct before it actually went up on his website.
So over the years, I believe about 30 people, if not more, have contributed things like 10-figure grid references. But
yeah.
I also believe there's almost like an editorial staff now, isn't there, of six people?
Yeah, there is. Yeah, there's six editors. There's myself and Chris, and for quite a long time it was the two of us. Then when we got into 10-figure grid references, which then got us into surveying, that was when John Barnard joined the editorial team and has taken forward all of the surveying. We then had a review, and since those times, Simon Edwards joined the team, George Gradwell joined the team, and more recently Mark Jackson.
So there's six people that consist of the editorial staff. But with the database of British Hills as it stands now, Graham, what do you envisage as the future? Very briefly.
Well, very briefly, I think it will continue to evolve. There will be demand, I think, by users to put more hill lists on it. I would like to see that, or like to think that when I'm dead and gone, more people will be coming involved, and it will be used as a definitive source of hill data. Well, it's been great meeting you today, Graham, and many, many thanks. Okay, great. Thanks, Myrddyn.